You're listening to the All Systems Go podcast, the show that teaches you everything you need to know to put your business on autopilot. Learn how to deploy automated marketing and sales systems in your business the right way with your host, the professor of automation himself and founder of Automation Bridge, Chris Davis.
Welcome to the All Systems Go podcast. I'm your host, Chris Davis. On this episode, I want to discuss one of the biggest mistakes I see entrepreneurs make in this just ship it era. You know, they're where it's all about just get it out the door, just go fast, scale. And they're simply not taking the time to properly plan. Instead, they're going for the fast growth, the quick cash injection, and the big funding raising, that big event. But there's an inevitable outcome awaiting those who operate like that. And that's what I want to discuss in this episode. And in fact, prevent you from making that same mistake. But before we jump into it, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, do me a favor. Listen to this episode in its entirety. And right at the end, make sure you leave a 5-star rating, a review, and you subscribe. Okay? Please do that. If you're already part of the family, you're already subscribed and you haven't left the 5-star rating and review, please and make sure you do that. Like right now, the podcast can still play while you go and leave that rating and review. And we're available in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio. You name it, we're there. The All Systems Go podcast is in every platform for your easy access. And I want to shout out Charles Kirkland for the latest rating, 5-star rating and review he left. He says, it's like getting a fast MBA in business. He said, this podcast has more actionable content than most $1,000 group courses. Regardless of your level of business, I promise you will get valuable insight and nuggets that you can take back and apply to your business to create more leads, sales, and profits. Charles, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And for all of you who have left the 5-star rating and review, I appreciate that as well. For all of you who are going to, thank you in advance. So I want to start this episode out by making a couple statements. And these statements are going to serve as the foundation. They're going to serve as the foundation for the rest of this episode. And one statement number one is start with the vision, not action. Okay, statement number 2 is if you want to move quicker, learn how to plan faster. Okay, so those are the 2 foundational statements, quotes, whatever you want to call them for this episode that we're gonna go by. So let's break them down. And I guess before we go into it, let me start with just stating where we're at in business. Okay. You guys have heard me. I'm on the record of saying technology did this. Technology did everything, the good and the bad. The good is it enabled everybody. The bad is it enabled everybody. Right. So it allows you to execute without brains or a plan. And I'm not exaggerating it. I have met people who have no clue what they're doing, but they can follow steps. And they're like, okay, buy this tool, use this template, hook it up to this autoresponder, hit save, name it this, and I'm good. And technically you are. Practically, that's garbage. That's not going to work. What were you thinking? In fact, you weren't thinking at all in these shows, right? But if you can mimic what someone else does, you can appear to be making progress. Right. And in the world, we're talking about the state of small business and entrepreneurship right now. The world is full of fakers. I think they've always been there. Right. Like you can make the argument that are things just more exposed and it's seeming like it's happening more often, whereas in the past they weren't as exposed, but it was still happening as often. But I think that with the enablement of technology, it's safe to say, specifically in the realm of business, that more fakers are out there today than anything. And these are people who take the perfect picture, right? They take the perfect month of revenue and report it like it's just happening all the time. And worse off, these are people, they're selling their practice, right? They're selling their idea. They heard somewhere else how you can do something. And since they can speak to it in a convincing manner, they sell this course to you when really you're buying the process. Like, you are the process. They've never generated leads, but they're going to show you how to generate leads by selling a product to generate leads. And in that, hey, I just generated leads. They're not speaking from a position of actually producing results, right? They have no relationship with their results. Okay. But that's where we're at. And the reason why there's so many fakers out there is because there's no barrier. There's no regulation to check your business plan or your marketing strategy before you buy a tool and start building online. Can you imagine the amount of SaaS companies that would go out of business if they required to see your business plan and marketing strategy sign off before you were able to get an account? Kind of like a bank giving a loan. You can't just walk into a bank and say, hey, look, I'm thinking about starting a business. I plan on making $1 million in a couple of years. So just loan me about $500,000. I'm good for it. This idea is going to take me to the moon and back. I'll pay you your money. The bank would not. They want your business plan, your projections. They want credit. They need to talk to people who can vouch for you, like they're going to do their checks and balances. That's not happening for technology. Get out of here. My child can go and sign up for a lot of these tools. They don't even ask for a date of birth. Right. So with no barrier, anybody can get out here. And as long as you can look decent, you will be surprised at who will follow you. I've seen people who know more than the people they follow, listening to the people they follow as if they're going to learn something when that person has just gotten better at positioning themselves online than you. They don't know more than you. So with this level of freedom, it comes at a cost. To whom much is given, much is required. And what is required for you now more than ever is to properly plan. It is the most skipped step by entrepreneurs and small business owners today. And it's mainly because everybody's in a rush, got to do it today, have it now, won't sleep till I get it type of society. I saw this person running ads. I need to be advertising. I saw them with 1 million YouTube likes. They have the little golden play button. I need that. I need to be going live on LinkedIn now that it's there. I need to be going on Facebook, have a Facebook group. I need to be doing go. Right? That's where we're at. Monkey see, monkey do, blind leading the blind. Because nobody's taking the time to really step back and plan. So when I say stop executing and do this instead, that's what I mean. Plan in a day and age where we're told to just ship it. Build the ship while you're sailing. Just get her done. There still has to be time made for planning. It's a required step in business that you simply can't skip. And I'm not speaking. Listen, let me tell you, I may have this platform, but do not believe in 1 minute that I view myself as on this elevated platform talking down to you all. In fact, I view myself in this podcast as walking alongside of you. It's like a crowd of you. I'm in the crowd with you. I just may have a microphone or maybe just be projecting my voice, but I'm right here with you. I am not speaking down to you like you need to plan more. You need to make time for this. You're going to fail. Not in that way, because I am you. I am that consultant that didn't plan and just wanted to execute. I am that consultant that wanted to just automate stuff and not have documentation. I've lived the life, and I'm still learning. I want to remain humble so that I don't appear to be like, hey, I've made it, everybody. When you get up here, let me know. No, I am as low to the ground as I can stay, because I know the second I puff my chest up and I puff my head up, some event is going to burst it. Right. And then I'm left embarrassed and I'm not helping people, So I'm presenting this to you through humility as a brother in arms. OK, I may have seen more battles than you. and had more victories and done more. But trust me, I'm still on the battlefield with you. So when I tell you this is a required step in business that you simply can't skip, it's because I've skipped this before, both in my business and as a consultant. And guess what? There are no shortcuts in business. In life, you can make this statement, but in business, any step that you skip, especially planning, you're going to have to revisit it later. And oftentimes when you have to revisit it, it's at a less opportune and more costly time in business, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I just got this big partnership. I don't have time to rebuild. I don't have time to go shore up this hole that I know is there. Let's just keep going. And truth be told, there's a lot of businesses that are operating like that. A lot of corporations that are operating like that. You can operate like that if you want to and deal with the stress and the extra money that you pay out because you don't have something in place. You could do that if you want to. I'm not recommending that at all. And this is why I stated, this is why this brings us to my first statement. You start with the vision, not action. You don't listen. You don't jump in a car and just start driving, hoping to figure out, oh, well, I think I'm going east, west, north, south. You left Florida and you're just, one day I'll land in LA. Now, don't get me wrong. Is there a chance you could just drive and eventually land in LA? You could. It could happen. You could do it. It could happen. But if you put 1,000 people in that process, maybe one makes it. And for that one person that made it, you can guarantee if you could look at a bird's eye view at their journey, it's laughable. It's like, where were you going? You mean to tell me you drove all the way to Minnesota, turned around on the Canadian border, came all the way back down, then drove back up to Idaho, came back down, and then you finally ended up in, like the path would be crazy. And that is where a lot of people are at today. You don't just jump into the car and just start driving. Yeah, I'll get there, because a lot of businesses have abandoned. I remember there was a cartoon strip on social media with a guy that was digging through a dirt tunnel, and he gave up, and it was just like 2 strikes away from the treasure, right? It's exhausting when you don't have a plan and you're not working your plan and you have no barometer to know how far you have to go. Right. If you're tired and exhausted driving, it's easier to finish that drive if you know there's just 30 more minutes than if you're not sure if it's 30 minutes, 3 hours, or 30 days. Right. It's just like, look, tap out, time to tap out. And that comes from a lack of vision. OK, where there is a lack of vision, you will find an abundance of corruption, chaos. And you will eventually perish. Where people perish, where there is a lack of vision. OK, so you start with a vision, not action. You type that address in and it shows you your route. And you're like, oh, OK, so I'm Florida. I'm going to go through Louisiana, hit Texas. I'm going to go through all of these states, maybe even Arizona. OK, I get it. I'll be going through these southern states. Now, if there's weather, if there's rough terrain, now you can prepare for it. Right. You have a vision of where you're going. I can't count the number of businesses that reach out to me and they've never planned out their processes or automation. And now they're stuck in at a revenue ceiling, and they're forced to revisit the steps that they skipped. But guess what? It's going to be more costly in both money and time. Now, in their defense, because I felt it right there. People was like, well, look, if I don't have time to just be sitting in planning mode. I get it, Chris. I understand it. And I agree. I went to school. I have a degree. I know how to plan, but I also have a business to run. Right. I heard that. It's like somebody, as I talk, I felt that kind of bubbling up. So in your defense, sometimes planning does take longer than anticipated. And I do agree with the MVP approach, the minimum viable product, instead of planning for perfection. So what I'm saying is there has to be a balance that is achieved. And I'm going to show you how to do it, but there has to be that balance. It can't be one or the other. Hey, I'm just growing my business. Look, we need to make this money. I don't have time to plan. And it can't be, hey, we're just planning everything. We've been planning for about a year, so next year we should be ready to go. No. There's a balance, and it's not always 50-50. Sometimes you are going to be heavy execution, lighter on the planning. Sometimes you're going to be heavier on the planning, lighter on the execution. My point is, I don't see people operating in planning at all. And this is not just entrepreneurs and small business owners. I've seen startups do this. I mean, you're in a meeting and you're looking at this document and people are just yawning. It's just like, what is this? It's their best version of planning. They don't know how to do it. So they just copied some document from some other startup or some other company and said, hey, look, here's our plan. Right. So planning has really been made painful over the past, which has given people a bad connotation to it. But those who are successful make time for it. There's never enough time to plan, but there's always time to be made to plan. You get what I'm saying? Like if you're just waiting for your calendar to open up and say, hey, time to plan, not going to happen. You have to make time for it. And it's worth making time for. OK, so how do we do this? How do we achieve this balance where we can execute and plan at the same time? Because even though I've titled this podcast, Stop Executing and Do This Instead, the truth is you're never going to just stop executing. Right. There may be a point in time where you reserve time in your business to get away and say, hey, look, I just need to get away, plan for the year, plan for the quarter, get a clear vision. But you're still executing because the automated processes you put in place are going to be running. Right. So how do you achieve it? The next statement is how you do it. And that's just plan faster. If you want to move quicker, you need to learn how to plan faster. So what I've done, just give you all some insight into my world and my operation. I've created a framework that allows me to plan a business. And when I say plan a business, this is in the area of automated marketing, although I have been tasked with creating a comprehensive business plan and have been able to do that within a week or two time frame. Right. A solid one. I also for it, because I get a lot of people who are just getting started, and that's not really my market, people who are just getting started in business. But I have a web app that I can send them that just asks them some preliminary questions, and it gives them like a beginner's business plan. You know, so I've created these frameworks that allow me to plan faster. So when it's time to execute, we have a strong foundation to do it on, a firm foundation. And for many of you, if you want your execution, your execution that produces results, if you want it to have longevity, it needs to be operating on a foundation of a solid plan. And when I say plan, it's not a completed plan. It's just a clear instruction and documentation of what is being done and what is to be done. Okay, for a given outcome. And I had to learn it over the years, how to plan faster. One of the events that kind of really forced me to do it is when I was working with a startup and I was just struggling getting buy-in. I mean, everything that I recommended just felt like it just got shut down. And it wasn't that they were bad ideas. What I learned to find is that the CEO was pretty much, it was fake freedom. Right. Hey, give me your ideas, this and that. But at the end of the day, until he was ready to do it, until he saw the value in it, that's when it would get done. So it pigeonholed your entire leadership team, or let me just say select people on the leadership team. I can't speak for everybody else, who had a vision beyond the CEO. Right. Who could see things the CEO couldn't see. You are always limited. It's the law of the lid. You can't go beyond the leader that you're under. Right. So what I had to do is, instead of coming to, hey, let's do this, very execution based, I had to come up with plans. I started to create presentations, documentation, right? All of those things to get buy-in. Now, did it work? No, it didn't work. I believe to this day, and it's been proven, that the CEO just personally had something against me. Which is fine. What do you expect in business? Everybody's not going to like you. I know I'm a likable person, but everybody's not going to like me. I've accepted that. I've accepted I have strong ideas and opinions about marketing that could rub people the wrong way. So be it. Right. That's not the issue. The the issue is taking that occurrence and using it negatively to frustrate you. I never did it. I looked at it and said, hey, look, I didn't get buy-in, but I just found something out. If I do this same thing, how I learned how to plan and create presentations, all of that, if I did the same thing to a CEO who would actually listen to me and values my input, oh my goodness, right? Like the sky's the limit. And I did just that. And it proved to be true time and time again. And that's why I'm here with you all today. Again, learn from my mistakes, learn from my trials and tribulations. Don't get frustrated when a door is closed in your face. If you learn to do the right things, it's only a matter of time. Remember that. The right things over time will produce the right result. The time factor is the most important thing. That's where people quit, in the time factor. So within this time, you need to be doing the right things. Planning is always the right thing to do. So I've learned how to do it faster. So I can in one day, if you give me half a day, I can come up with a pretty basic MVP, a minimal viable plan. Okay. Not a minimum viable product, a minimum viable plan. Okay. That's what you need to be able to produce. If you have one day, you need to be able to produce that in a day or even half a day. Okay. Because the rest of it is going to be planning on the fly. You're not always going to have the option to get everyone in a room, in a meeting, walk through a document. You see what I'm saying? You're going to have to learn how to use Slack, Google Docs, spreadsheets, Loom videos, Airtables, all of these tools that are available at your disposal, accessible to you. and you're going to have to build this thing, the planning part, not just the execution, because your job, the marketing consultant, the CMO, the fractional CMO, the marketing manager that's listening to this, your peace of mind is on the line. You better make sure and let me say, it may not be appreciated. Nobody may see the value of the planning that you're doing. But let me tell you, if we're connected, if you're in my community, if you're enrolled in one of my courses and you're part of my private network that I have, trust me, believe you can come anytime and know that you'll be appreciated. We will highlight and praise the plan. We will show that. Look at how they planned out their marketing, their social media calendar. Look at how they planned out Q1 for the business and marketing. Look at how they planned out how they're going to automate and what areas of the business they're going to automate first. We'll praise you for that. I will. I'm serious. I'm serious about this because I know the feeling of doing all of these right things and getting no accolades, no pat on the back. And everybody's just focused on the performer, the one executing. But that's the half truth, which is a whole lie. Remember, we learned that in the last episode. Okay. So just know it's not the type of work that gets a lot of appreciation. You may not even have a lot of support, but you're going to have to learn how to produce an MVP, minimum viable plan, and then update it and complete it on the fly. Okay. And when I say complete, we all know that nothing is complete because as you execute, you add to it. But, in a state where you can present it confidently. Right. So it's the type of work you won't get a lot of appreciation for, but you'll get paid in peace of mind, knowing that the day will come where everybody will thank you for having it in place. They're like, hey, does anybody who are we mailing? And you're like, oh, hey, by the way, if you're me, look, it's like, hey, by the way, let me pull up this Airtable where I have mapped out all of our segments, all of the actions that they take to be added to those segments, and then the type of messaging we're sending to each segment. And if you want to go a step further, I have a dashboard of every email, how it's performed, both open, clicks, and revenue. So if you want to see any correlation, I have all of that, right? You should see the look on people's faces when this happens. This happens to me often. People, I don't ask for permission to plan. You don't need permission to plan. Just do it, everybody. Okay? And do it on the fly. When you're in a meeting, make your notes. Okay, let me just add this to the document. Let me update this. Hey, update that. And if you have a team, they can be doing the updating. But you have a plan. It helps you keep execution flowing and going. In that same meeting, if nobody was like, oh, I don't know, I think we're mailing everybody, right? Now you leave that meeting with objectives to go identify who our segments are. Let the manager know by this date, this blah, blah, blah. That's wasted time. You could have had that in place and that meeting could have went to the next level. Okay, so since we're mailing them, let's do this. And now we're in strategy mode, and we've elevated the value of our execution. Okay. So again, you're not doing it for the pat on the back. If you want that, join my community. But just know you'll have the peace of mind. You'll be able to go to sleep without worrying. Oh, did I email the wrong people? Oh, are they going down the right path? You'll get your peace. You'll get paid in peace of mind immediately. So what I'm saying is I'm not opposed to just shipping and the minimum viable product. I'm not opposed to that. In fact, I am a byproduct of it. I do it in my business. I've done it in startups that have raised funding, millions upon millions of dollars. I get it. But in this space, you have to be, while they're MVPing, you've got to be MVPing. While they're doing their minimum viable product, you got to be doing your minimum viable planning. If you're responsible for the marketing, do it. It is a value add. You will set yourself apart. Okay. And I don't want to, I just don't want to, I guess what I'm saying is, when we talk about this balance, what I'm trying to prevent you all from doing is operating without that preliminary plan in place. Right. I don't want you to have to revisit it. Right. We discussed the set it and forget it dynamic. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, go listen to episode 18. I talked about the set it and forget it approach. This is part of being able to quote unquote forget it. It's having your plan in place. Okay. That's going to help you. And your plan is going to help you get execution, implementation at a cheaper cost, high quality execution, longevity. It's just so much. You all have heard the term plan the work, then work the plan, right? You have to have it in place, everybody. Too many people are skipping this step to the point where I had to make this podcast episode. Okay. I had to. I did fight. I was just like, do I really need to say this? They should know. No, you need, if you already know, you need to be told again, because a lot of people are not abiding by this. And did I mention it also serves as great documentation? It does. You can easily extract job descriptions or get freelancers for specific tasks when you have it all planned out. I've planned out marketing to the point of, like, hey, wait a minute. All of these tasks, this is really a job description. Let's just copy, paste this into a Upwork or, whatever job posting, and let's hire based on that. And it worked. And it worked. You never fail planning, and you never waste time planning. It's never that. You just have to learn how to do it faster. You need to become more effective at it. Okay. And the only way to do that is through repetition, of course. Okay. So who needs to hear this? Who's that person that if you ask to see a plan, they couldn't produce it because they've never had it? There's a lot of people who are like very achievement based, checkbox based. All they want to do is get stuff done. Hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do that? Never seen a plan a day in their life. Their plan is to tell people what to do so they can make money. That is their plan, right? There's people like that. And then there's people who operate under that stressfully because maybe they're more on the safety side. Safety's their driver, and they need structure, instruction, like vision, where are we going? And they don't have it, but they're great workers, right? If you provide the planning and structure for them. So right in that middle, most of the time is that marketing manager, that director of marketing, that marketing automation specialist, that marketing consultant, that marketer. You are primely positioned to be doing the planning. So who needs that? Who is that person that they can build out Ryan Dice's machine and Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign, Entreport. They can do all this fancy stuff, but you've never seen them actually plan out an automation project. If that's you, just share everything that I said to somebody you think needs to hear it and watch them like, oh, okay, I never thought about that. Right? That's just that's just the truth. So what I want you to do is I'm starting to get a feel for a lot of communities. There's a lot of digital marketing communities that are really starting to lean on this tutelage. Make sure that you're sharing this in those communities. Okay. There's a certain type of marketer that cares to do things the right way. That's who this type of podcast is going to resonate with. This is not going to be like the quick win scenario where you do one thing and make $1 million in 5 days. That's not how I operate business anyway. I'm always into sustainable success, right? I don't want success for today and failure for tomorrow. I want success for today and forever. Okay. So people who that message aligns with, share this with them. Do me a favor. Just make sure you share this with them specifically in those communities. And don't just say, hey, listen to this. Like give some context. Hey, I've been learning from this. It's really been shaping the way that I'm looking at marketing. I'm starting to see results. I'm able to get higher tier clients. I'm getting better results. Just listen to this. Maybe it'll help you. It's not going to help everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm sure you know at least one person whose tea I am for their cup. All right. So with that being said, if this is your first time listening to a episode of the All Systems Go All Systems Go podcast in its entirety, now is the time where you hit the 5 stars and leave that rating and review right now. Okay, do that for me. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We release these every Thursday. This is a weekly podcast. So every Thursday you'll get a new teaching. You get a new episode for you. So please make sure you do that and share. Please share. Every resource that I've mentioned and all of the show notes for all of the episodes are available at automationbridge.com/podcast. And as always, and until next episode, automate responsibly, my friends.